Awesome. We have an awesome guest with us today. We have Udita Pal. Quick introduction of her. She has worked at around 35 startups around the globe in various functions. She's worked in content, marketing, branding. She's also worked in product strategy. And currently, she's the founder of Salt, which is a YC-backed startup. It was in the winter batch 2022. So, yeah, hi, Udita. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So why don't you start with a little bit of introduction of your startup salt.pe?
Sure. So, hi, I'm founder of Salt. We are into cross-border payments. When you say it out loud, it doesn't really sound a very sexy market to target, but India processes around $1.3 trillion volume of transaction annually in cross-border payments. If I take out government contracts and I take out large MNCs, I'm still left with $300 billion, which is directly taken care of by bank. And I wanted to build a product for people where the compliances which comes with doing these kind of payments can be taken care of. And that's what we are doing with Salt. Aim is to be able to handle any single form of cross-border payments out which is out there for now for India. And at one point, we're just helping the entire globe connect with each other. That's where I want to be, and that's where the project will be in long run.
Awesome. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the backstory of the startup? How did you figure out that there was a problem in this sector, and what insights did you gain while doing that, and thought that this is the kind of product that would probably solve this problem?
Oh yes, yes. I love telling people this story. So every time I'm out, and I think this is probably my favorite part of the pitch as well when I'm giving to investors, that I have been a freelancer or consultant, whatever you want to call yourself, for a really long time, since the age of 19. And when you're in college, you every time you're receiving $100 for doing some content work or taking care of someone's SEO, you're absolutely okay. But when the money actually hit my bank account, I realized that it's just $88. I
Yeah.
lost approximately $12 in cross border, the FX and all those things.
Mhm.
I was a kid, I ignored it, but as I kept growing in my career, this thing started hurting me. Like, it started denting my financial choices and decisions. So from PayPal, I moved to TransferWise. They had their own set of problem. If the rates were a bit better, it was the experience which was bad. And by the way, PayPal and for that matter, TransferWise or Wise, they do not have a customer care support team set up in India. So you have to drop an email
Yeah.
and you have to go ahead and make it work and wait for them to reply with your number, I'll say your payment ID and all those things. And I felt this is not right. I shouldn't be having a back and forth over an email for
Yeah.
my transaction. It should be far more easier than that. And then I went with Western Union, of course, the OG.
Mhm.
But problem with Western Union is receiving $10,000 in cash is very scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge amount to carry around with you. So I was like, fine, I'll do the most traditional thing ever, that is bank account transactions. I'll give them my bank account detail. I'll wait for 10 days for the transaction to be processed, or however long it takes. It has taken 15 days, 20 days. It once took 70 days for me to receive my money,
Oh
but
my
I
God.
was willing to do that. And even that experience ended up being bad because I'm an SBI user,
Yeah.
and my account got frozen because they thought I'm doing phony transactions or illegal transactions, because the money was coming from Africa and Europe and China and random places.
Damn.
So I had to travel from Bangalore, where I stay, to Bokaro, which is my hometown.
Mhm.
Every single time my account was frozen and my debit card and everything stopped working. I have 23 debit cards of SBI because of this. Because everything would stop working, I'll have to go to the home branch, show the proof of invoices and that my transactions are legal, and then they would let me use my account.
My God, that's a very terrible user experience. But what I want to try and understand is why there is such a friction, especially for such big players like PayPal and all the other players, right? Why have you tried to figure out what was the major reason why they couldn't, improve the user experience?
You have entire world. How important will one country be?
Okay, in that sense, right? Okay, all right, got it. So then, how did you start working on this startup? What problems did you prioritize solving first? And obviously this is a very compliance heavy segment. So how did you navigate through all of that?
Oh yeah, so I'll just give a very beautiful ending to my story of at least solving cross-border payments for me.
Yeah.
When so what happened ultimately was I started receiving my money in form of Amazon gift cards.
Hmm. Okay.
Because I'm getting my entire money, I'm not losing anything in the process. And then it became Mintra gift card, it became Starbucks gift card, and I don't even drink coffee. But there was no other way for me to receive 100% of the money that I deserve on time until and unless it's in a gift card. And I still use that money till date. I mean, that is from like 2019. I
Wow.
received that gift card, and at date, I order coffee for my company through that Starbucks gift card.
Wow.
But yeah, that was the only way, and I felt it was very unfair.
Yeah.
Around the same time, my co-founder was in. So my co-founder was previously founder of Let's Transport, Ankit Parashar,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in Singapore, and his card stopped working, and he had I forgot it's he had diners in Finia, which is like one of the most prominent credit cards that you can have in India.
Mm-hmm.
And even his relationship manager said that, oh, your card stopped working, I cannot do anything about it. And he also was like, okay, this is very unfair. Like, my credit card, which is like the most one of the most prominent ones in India, if that is not working and RM is saying they cannot do anything about it until and unless I'm back, that means cross-border payments and cross-border transactions or foreign transactions are not as easy as we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we were emotionally attached to the idea, but we were not sure which market to target.
Mm-hmm.
So we started researching. We do not have a very hunky-dory story that, oh, we were discussing our idea in a Starbucks and a VC heard us and he gave us money. uh, my co-founder leaving his job was a very tough decision for both of us. Leaving a 9 to 5 job is very different from leaving a CXO position in a company, especially the one you have built from scratch.
Yeah.
So, but once we decided, we knew what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do, and that's how this idea of building Salt came into the picture.
Wow. So at what stage then did he decide to leave the company and pursue the startup full time?
He left his company after raising Series B and in the middle of raising Series C.
My God.
Yeah, he was willing to sacrifice everything to build this because that is how much cross-border payments meant to him.
No, but then what I'm trying to understand is where that conviction is coming from, being sure that this is uh, the solution to the problem and this is going to work and all of that, right?
I'll tell you one thing. I think in the starting of the podcast, I said, right, $300 billion is processed by small businesses in India.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, PayPal,
Mhm.
even being one of the biggest of all, owns 0.02% of Indian market.
Damn. Wow.
Yes. So rest of the transactions are being done by the bank. And
Mhm.
between us, when was the last time bank was actually very supportive and empathetic towards you?
Never. I am an SBI user, so I can completely relate to what you've been
Then
going through.
virtual high five to you. We both are
Yeah, and
SBI
I have also
users.
been a freelancer and I have gone through the whole PayPal thing. So I relate with all the problems that you're mentioning. So yeah,
It hurts, right? It hurts so bad when you see that you have double FX and whatnot charged to you.
yeah,
And you were like, if you told me this, I would have at least asked for like $10 more so that I get the actual amount that I deserve.
exactly right. All right. So uh, understanding the um, emotional side of things, right? Was there any time when things were not working in your favor and maybe you thought of not pursuing the startup anymore? How we and if you have been in such a situation, then how were you, processing all of that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I left my job in April 2019,
Mm-hmm.
um, and didn't earn for until September 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I had enough savings. Definitely, I saved a lot of money. Not saying I was miser at any point in my life, but I did save.
Mm-hmm.
I think I asked my parents time till April 2021. for me to figure out what I want to do with my life, how I want to do it, and everything. And I remember having a call with my father on May 2021, and I said that I'm so sorry for disappointing you. It's not working. I had 3 job offers in my hand. Two were from an MNC, was from one of the topmost startups in India. All were very good positions, very good money. I had offer of from 2B school outside India, and I was going through all of them. And my dad just said that if you have waited for so long to get
Mm-hmm.
this in your life,
Mm-hmm.
6 months won't hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened within 1 month after that. Suddenly, we, from whatever amount we wanted to raise, we ended up raising double of it.
Wow.
Everyone suddenly, all the people that we said no also to, they also wanted to suddenly invest in us,
Wow.
because cross border payments was getting hotter and hotter, and people wanted to be the early mover in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that rest is history. Like, I remember in September, the money hit our account. We asked our core team who joined us to move to Bangalore. I remember the one hectic month of getting an office, getting everything done. I remember crying when I received salary in September.
My God.
Yeah. I think I also cried when I got into YC. So I think I just cry a lot
Wow.
as a person.
I used to not cry very often, but then I think I cried more time in the past 1 year of running the startup than I cried in probably the last 10 years of my life. So I think um, that is something that we share as startup founders. Awesome. So I would also like to, touch a little bit upon the challenges that you were facing when things were not going well. So were there any, super consequential challenges that had the potential of, sort of killing the startup, and if there were, then how did you address them?
I think me being very clingy with my co-founder. So no, in the sense that my co-founder and I have been best friends for, in September it will be 6 years.
Well,
Yeah, and we are best friends. Like, not dating, not romantically, but we are actually best friends. Like, I can't help it but say it like that. And
super.
um yes, but imagine having two different jobs, having all a long day work, and then meeting each other and having conversations to do. But when you are you're COVID stuck, and
Yeah.
then your co-founders, you're spending all of your time together. You don't know where to draw a boundary as a friend. You don't know where to draw a boundary as a co-founder. So I
Mm.
think that was one of the biggest challenge for both of us, to figure out a way to be able to have personal space as well, because we were staying in same house,
Mhm.
building the same company. And the way we addressed it was very simple. um from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. My co-founder used to work. From 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. I used to work, so
Damn.
that we have a 12-hour windows away from each other. Uh, but that was our way of giving each other space, so that we can have at least a weekend together talking about things outside work. I think other than that, I have been one of the most privileged founders, I'll say, considering I don't come from a pedigree background and my co-founder do, and I have seen the difference in attitude of how people talk with me and how they talk with my co-founder. And my co-founder never lets anyone discredit me in any possible way. Like, he will go ahead and say that she may be smarter than you guys, she's smarter than me. And that is one thing which helps. Like, that would have been the biggest challenge for me, and that is one thing I have no complaints about whatsoever, because he addresses it very well.
Wow, I'm a little, surprised to see that there's a difference in how people, behave or conduct themselves with different people. I always thought that maybe it just comes down to what the person is talking about, but then you're mentioning that the background that they have also determines the kind of conversations that you have. So I think I never had this kind of an exposure or an experience. So maybe this is something new to be. Uh, but yeah, any other challenges apart from these that you've mentioned?
I think kind of, you every once in a while want a cheerleader for you,
Mhm.
right? I think that is one of the things. Even if like, your co-founder has done something very small, I think you have to appreciate it every once in a while. I do not look at things from very logical point of view. I look at from emotional point of view, how you can motivate each other, and the soft skills you need to be better founders. And I think appreciating each other, communicating with each other, and trying to understand what the other person is doing while doing your thing is very important. So when Ankit and I started, I think the biggest problem that we had to face was that he knew everything about technical stuff, I knew everything about marketing, and we would do that all day long, but at night we would try to understand how to do sales, because we both were terrible at talking about our product.
Mm-hmm.
We would learn from other people, we would talk to other people, we would do 100 things, and that's when I realized that it's very important to understand the good and the worst which comes with your co-founder, because if you don't and you do not communicate it well, then you may end up falling apart, which is becoming a far more common thing in our ecosystem these days, right? So definitely communicating it better. Like, I think communication solves all the big problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the MVP? What assumptions were you trying to, test in the initial versions? And probably tell me a little bit about how the current product looks like, and how different it is from the initial versions.
Okay, there was no product before this, but okay. I think it took us 4 months to launch the product officially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the timelines won't match because I said I left my job in 2019. So, Ankit and I, we have spent every single day of our life discussing one or the other fintech idea or edtech idea, social idea, something or the other. We have always discussed one thing or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, fintech was one thing we both were very personal about, and we were very anal about building something very nice,
Mm-hmm.
even if not together, even if individually. So we wrote down all the ideas we liked. We did testing around them. We built apps. We have apps on Play Store which reached 200K downloads, and then we took it down because we didn't feel like pursuing that idea because there was no way of making money out of it. We wanted to try different form of cards, how to sell them, and ultimately sometime in 2021
Mm-hmm.
we finally realized that we want to do cross border payments, because that sounds like something which is common between both of us. um, so I come from the background where cross border payments have been a very normal thing, and Ankit comes from a background where he has handled business payments for uh, small business payments, and we both kind of combined the idea and we started building cross border payments for businesses. That's how the idea of bringing it all together came into picture. At this point, we have spent our entire COVID reading so much about every single form of payment. We knew exactly the partners we want, how we want it. It was a year into working with our core team, and they also knew how important it is for us to execute things. So I think November 2020, so September 2021, we had the product ready with us for beta. By January 1st, we officially launched. Until from January till now, we have processed around $17 million worth of transactions.
Wow.
And that speaks in itself that we've actually figured out what we wanted to do. So it did take us a little time, but we figured out what we wanted to do. There were no other versions that we launched of cross border payments. The only difference between what used to happen last year and what happens now is that earlier we used to get on call with them, get all the documents, manually get them KYC'd, and then tell them that this is your bank account detail for US and you can go ahead and use it. Now we have a dashboard and people can do it themselves. So that is the only difference which has come in. And all those customers who were working with us around same time last year are still using our platform for doing transactions. So definitely I'll say retention is very good.
All right. So basically, you're trying to say is that you were doing all of that manually, all the transactions, and then you just productize the entire, the process, and then that is how it went ahead, right?
Yes, yes.
Got it. Perfect. And at what stage um, did you apply for YC, and obviously you raised some funds there also. So what factors did you consider when you were raising funds? Maybe a little bit about that.
So yeah. So every time I felt like my co-founder and I are broke, I used to tell him that should we raise funds now? And he was like, no. I do not want to go to an investor with nothing in our hands, because neobank, while it was a hot sector, it was also a sector which was in hot waters, where people were being scrutinized left and right about how they're building, how they will be making revenue work. So Ankit put everything on hold for at least whole of 2020, half of 2021, and half of 2019, until and unless we had at least screenshots ready of what the product will look like. And the product was already in production. That is where we were waiting at, because we wanted that the moment we have received fund, within 2 months the product need to be live. Like, investors should not feel like they made a mistake, because there were so many startups who raised money and then didn't do anything for like year or months. We wanted that the moment money hits our bank account, we have already started the work and we are in the final stages of making it work. And I mean, I think the biggest factor that we considered was that we have figured out what we want to do, how we want to do. We have integrations and partnerships in place. We just need a ground capital to launch the product. While it worked for me, I would like to say that other people should do however they want. We kept compartmentalizing all the investor interest we were getting. We started putting them in different boxes. That the investors who is helpful but will put small check was one box. Investor who is not at all helpful but will put a large check is in one box. Investor who is helpful will put a medium. We kept making these boxes and we kept doing this back and forth all the time, because all we wanted to do was, whenever we are ready, we should know what we have to tell them, how we have to tell them, and understand what their expectation are as well.
Wow, wow. Awesome. So I have a follow-up question on that, right? So when I was building my startup, I was approached by a couple of funds, and they offer, so they used to write checks between 25 to 50 lakhs, and there were other investors as well, who investors and also school founders, school owners who wanted to invest in our thing. But then my only concern was that I was not very sure what I would do with the money that I would get, right? So what I want to understand is, how did you figure out how to spend the money that you would get from the investors? Also, you mentioned that you initially thought of raising a certain amount of money, but then you ended up raising double that amount, right? So how do you, make sure that you are spending the money wisely, and where exactly to allocate that money? Maybe a little bit on that.
Oh yeah, nice question, by the way. I think we first sat and made a list of how much are the salary we are gonna be process of our full-time team, how much salary we want to take, and then we started putting together, okay, this is gonna be the office cost, this is gonna be the at least the minimum cost you will be spending on your employees if they're hanging out with you. We started putting all of these together to find a basic amount that we will be spending, and if it is worth spending that kind of money. So the first thing we did was, we realized that doesn't make sense to take a fancy office. So we took a house and we turned it into an office, and we paid like 35,000 per month, which is much better than paying 1 lakh a month for an
Yeah,
office.
yeah.
And I think more than realizing how you want to spend money, you need to first get done with understanding what your runway is like.
Hmm.
And runway, you have to be very honest. You have to talk about the most important thing, that where even you are willing to spend a bit of money, right?
Hmm.
So you cannot make a list of my employees are this, and then this is the cost of setting up office, this is internet cost, and these things. Your employees' birthdays will be coming in.
Yeah.
Someone will be needing a raise. Someone may say that they need financial money to probably take care of paying off a deposit in Bangalore. There are so many factors you need to consider. So you have to always take a little bit upper amount. But what is that amount? What are the factors which are guaranteeing it is what you have to think of. And at any given time, I think runway of minimum 1 year is very important.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I think these were the factors I considered.
Awesome. Also, you've been talking about how much potential there is for a startup like this, right? So I really want to understand how one goes about calculating the total addressable market. This is something that I have, read a couple of articles on, watched a couple of videos, but then still, I always feel like, um, it all comes down to taking proxies probably from similar markets and stuff like that. But then I don't have a very concrete answer as to how one goes about calculating the TAM. So maybe if you could help me a little bit with that, maybe a couple of examples that you could share.
No, so I would like to clarify with we personally chose the volume as our total addressable market, and
Mm.
then we started breaking down the volume, and that's what worked for us. So total market will always remain 1.3 trillion, and government is trying to make it 3 by next 2 years. So that is how we defined the how big the market is, and then we started doing our research and understanding that how much time different products are taking, or what are the pricing at which they are. And in order to understand these things, we didn't put a lot of research and effort into it. I'll personally say that trust articles a little bit and at least talk to 50 customers, like
Mm-hmm.
50 potential customers, and trying to do a little bit of scooping on the internet is more than enough. I think it's more important to talk to the customers to understand whether this market is something you want to go ahead with or not, rather than seeing the numbers, because I have seen some of the greatest product came out of nowhere, built their own market, and now we cannot imagine a world without it.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Cool. So, you were talking about initially trying to figure out how to make sales work, right? So maybe if you could help me understand how you went about making those first, let's say, 50 sales, initial sales. How did you go about doing that? I believe that that is one of the toughest part that I have, tried to figure out on my own. So I would really love to understand how you went about doing that.
Oh wow. I think we kind of we spent so much of our time talking to these business owners who are into cross border payments, right,
Yeah.
that I just ended up sending a broadcast message. Like total Ankit and I together, we ended up talking to 827 or 22 small businesses in India in 2 years.
Wow.
So all we did was send out a broadcast message, and out of those people, 200 signed up, and only 50 did the transactions. And it's still a very good ratio.
Yeah.
But doing those conversations and building those relationships. So throughout the COVID, even if it meant nothing to us, like we recommended so many we Ankit and I set up Instagram accounts of people to
Wow.
so that they can sell during COVID. We made Google thing, like Google search for them, Google Maps for them. Ankit and I made website for them. We corrected their content, grammatical errors. We kept doing something or the other we could in our free time in order to retain them as someone who will keep giving us feedback on product. And it
Wow.
worked out very well for us. We ended up doing our initial 200K worth of transactions via them.
My God. That's lovely. Uh, so can you tell me a little bit about who these startups were, maybe some profiling, what type of
Oh,
businesses they were running?
absolutely. They were not startups. They were proper import export businesses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't target startup. In fact, the product through which we could target startups came very late. What we were actually focused on more was that we want to talk to conventional businesses who are my better target, because they have a large volume,
Yeah.
and they have no source whatsoever. So large MNCs have bankers licking their ass all the time that use our product. We will meet your pricing.
Yeah.
Then you have extremely small to no business owners who are not getting anything. So we
Yeah.
were trying to go for the other end, and medium were just a cherry on top who have everything, but they want better. Like, proper business minded people.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you end up finding these people then? I'm sure you probably might not be able to find them on LinkedIn, maybe. I don't know. So how did you like find these people then?
Cold callings, and we knew people. So Ankit and I have been in industry since I was 15. So it's what,
Wow.
11 years now. Ankit also has been in the startup ecosystem for so long. So that's why.
Got it. Got it. Cool. And so this was basically the go-to-market strategy also then.
Yes. So initially we went ahead with community and network that we have.
Hmm.
And then we started focusing on setting up sales and operations, which was very later, which has started happening like 3 months ago. It's
Oh,
very new.
okay. Uh, so then, like, do you have a database of all these people, and then you, when they reach out to them, try and understand, are you still having those conversations with them, either you or folks at your company, or how does that work? How does the onboarding work then?
Uh, I mean, it's a bit of both. The big companies are definitely being taken over by us personally.
Mm-hmm.
However, the small ones, We have a team dedicated. So we are still targeting every single form of customers who are coming in, as long as they are businesses. We do not judge them based upon these things.
Okay, okay, all right. Uh, so could you tell me a little bit about your experience at YC? What got you in, and what key insights you gained being there? What value did you extract out of that entire experience?
YC was a great experience. I mean, I don't say this enough. I have been dreaming of it since, I think, at the age of, like, I think I was in class 10 or 11.
I,
I have been dreaming of getting into YC since then. And since, I think, my co-founder and I applied 4 times, I'll
Hmm.
say. And after third, so first time we got rejected on face, and we knew we didn't work very hard on it. Second time we worked very hard and we got shortlisted for the interview.
Wow.
And we did give the interview. We didn't get in because their concern was that my co-founder has not exited his current startup yet,
Ah.
so it may not be the best thing. And they asked us to apply again once he has left.
Hmm.
Then the third time we got rejected again, but before the fourth time, it was a month after we raised funding. So we were like very chill at this point. It was just a way of for my co-founder and I to bond. So we were like, we're sitting, it's 2 a.m, let's just write YC application. 2 days later it got accepted.
Wow.
And my co-founder was leaving next day for Dhanteras and celebrating Diwali with his family.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just packing his luggage. Suddenly we realized we have a YC interview, sat, gave all the answers, and our interview ended in 7 minutes.
Wow.
My co-founder said that, oh, we did amazing. And I was like, no, we fucked up. The interview didn't last for 10 minutes. And cut to 8 a.m. I think my co-founder was in flight, and YC tried reaching out to him to say he's on boarded. So ultimately they left an email. I remember I was on call with my mother, and it was early morning, and I was telling her that YC interview went really bad. And then on the call itself, I checked my email and I found a message from Tim Brady saying that we are funding you. And I started crying, like right over
Wow.
there on the call. I was like, this was all I ever wanted in my entire life. And then YC changed the amount from 125K to 500,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, great, better. I think YC experience has been great. I'll definitely be very honest and say I have skipped a lot of classes because you're working from 8 a.m. in office, and then from 10:30 p.m. at night till 2 a.m. or 11:30 there are classes, and you cannot just balance it with your normal life.
Mhm.
So I would just keep it on, let's keep listening to it, keep making notes. But I was also probably playing Catan in my free time, or writing something, doodling something. I have a dog, so I was probably annoying her while the YC classes were going on. But the ultimate experience was the community. Like, everyone is supporting each other, everyone is hyping each other. And YC keeps saying that even if you both have same idea, please remember you're not each other's competitor, you're a competitor to the world. And
Wow.
that was such an important part of, I'll say, the attitude that founders need to have. Even till date, I leave any doubt in any of my YC group, I always get someone or the other reverting to me. And that gives me power to also revert when someone else is in doubt. I also ask them to do something. And that is how I know they have built a very nice, spiraling, and very positive community.
Lovely, lovely. That's a great
Yeah.
answer. And Udita, I loved speaking with you. Thanks for sharing all the insights. I'm sure that those who are going to listen to this podcast, they're going to find immense value in this. Thank you so much for the time. These were all the questions that I had for you. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.